In the 1970s, the poverty rate in New York City was around 18%. While the city has more money than ever before, the poverty rate has only grown and now stands at around 25%. Did the USA hit its peak a long time ago? Is it destined to end just like the British, French, and Roman Empire? If and when the United States falls, this will be the story read in the history books. The death of democracy, the 20th and 21st century. The end of democracy in the United States started quietly in the 1900s, but grew very loud in the early 2000s. Big companies wanting more power began buying politicians, paying them to vote on bills that would support their companies. This, of course, meant that the government was no longer working for the people, but working for the elites. They caused great division between the American people. The Americans who had previously shared many common beliefs broke into many small groups, each believing their own truth and having no common ground. The news and the media, owned by the same elites that owned the government, stopped sharing real facts and only pushed stories that would scare the people, cause division, and of course, control them. Through the anger and confusion spread by these elites, they used the government and their pharmaceutical companies to turn the American people into drug addicts, overprescribing pills like Oxycontin, Xanax, and Adderall. And while anger grew between groups of Americans, the elites got richer off of the dead bodies of Americans. And of course, the end of democracy was only one part of the fall of the empire. Another incredibly important one was the end of shared prosperity, which happened in the later 20th century and early 21st. As democracy weakened, so did everybody's belief that we could all share in the success of our country. By the late 1900s, the gap between the rich and the poor was steadily growing. The rich kept getting richer and the poor kept getting poorer. And the middle class, well, could no longer survive. Due to this, it was extremely difficult to differentiate a poor person from someone in the middle class. This made more and more politicians come out with populist movements, promoting socialist values, only to get power and further corrupt the nation. It became a country where you either voted red or blue, but the answer was always the same: less opportunities, more taxes, and more wars. The last wars, late 20th and early 21st century. While the nation was crumbling within, the US government tried to use their power to regain influence abroad. Using its military bases installed all over the world with money taken from hardworking people, it fought unjust wars constantly and became known as the biggest terrorist group in the world. Of course, many innocent were killed in these wars, but the elite businessmen that owned our government did not care about their lives. They only cared about profit. With the rise of social media, people of my generation began seeing the atrocities, the tragedies being committed abroad, and less people respected our government, and less people wanted to join the military. Meanwhile, abroad, many countries were finding a new path to prosperity and world trade. Negotiations overseas. With the rise and expansion of BRICS, many other countries began making great trade deals and relations so that they could protect themselves and their economies from the terror of the United States. All of Eastern, Southeastern Asia, and Africa began making trade deals with China, Russia, and other powerful countries. They traded freely and in peace, and even stopped trading in the US dollar, further crippling the US economy. US infrastructure decays. As the rich elite caused the United States to fight these pointless wars, our government lost both money and influence. The winners were the rich elite, while everybody else was a loser with the decaying of our streets, our bridges, and highways. As everything was starting to fall apart, it became clear that we were extremely far behind China, and there was no longer a way of beating the competition. Undefeatable competition. The US already stood no chance in the early 2000s. China was a country that could not be bought by businessmen. They were building up their infrastructure and investing in their people. And because of this, they became the thriving nation we Americans wanted to have. And meanwhile, the United States became incapable of producing anything. And China took advantage of this and opened factories that would be able to produce for the needs of the whole world. I remember the first time I saw a video of high-speed railways in China, and I walked outside and I heard the old steam train that still was running in my hometown. This embarrassment led to the Great Emigration of 2045. Americans could no longer afford to buy homes, even with the loans and mortgages from the banks. Huge companies like BlackRock and Vanguard bought all of the apartment buildings and single-family homes, causing prices to rise so high that only a big corporation could afford to pay. This, along with the terrible infrastructure and bad-paying jobs, is what led to the Great Emigration of 2045. Hundreds of millions of Americans fled to countries like Russia, China, Singapore, and Malaysia in search of a better life. And of course, after this came the inevitable fall of the empire. Without workers, companies like Microsoft, Apple, Walmart, and Amazon all moved their companies out of the country. This meant less money for the US government and caused many organizations in the government to be shut down, and hundreds of thousands of government employees lost their jobs. The American dream was over. Every American had family living abroad, and they could see that they were living a better life in these countries than in the US. The US sold all of its military bases to different countries to make a little bit of money, and little by little, it lost everything that it had, all of its influence, power, and money. And that is how the empire of the United States of America fell. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you found it interesting. If you did, let me know in the comments and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.